and welcome to another ink review video. Today I will be testing an ink by Sailor. It is called 473. So this is an ink that I purchased a long time ago because I wanted something different from the other colored inks that I had. And I looked at the colors I had and I did not have a color like this one. So that is how I came to have this ink. And I will also sometimes purchase inks that, to me, I look at them and I'm like, I don't know why I would want this ink, like why I would like that color, you know, the pictures don't impress me or whatever. I buy the ink and it just surpasses all my expectations. So anytime you see a color maybe you're not familiar with, or you know, one that you don't have a lot of in your collection or whatever, it's sometimes worth it just to buy it or even buy a sample and just see how it writes, because I have found in my experience that what I see in the product photos online do not at all translate to real life. I mean, they do somewhat, but not, you know, what the properties I liked in the ink often are not, you know, how do I say this? I guess my vocabulary is lacking, but essentially the reason I like a certain ink might not be what you actually get when you're doing the writing. So maybe the color is correct, or maybe it does have sparkles or whatever it is, but maybe there was something specific I was seeing in the swatches that doesn't translate to how the ink actually looks in real life. And it could also depend on the paper you're using or whatever. So anyway, this is one of those inks where I thought, you know, I couldn't tell if I liked the ink or not based on the swatches. I couldn't, you know, get any good information on this particular color, and I don't have a lot of this color in my collection at all. I think maybe aside from some like ink collections that I have where you get like a box set and it has like every color or whatever, I don't have a lot of these, you know, orangey, peachy colors. And so sometimes I will purposefully purchase one just because I don't have one. So anyway, that's a long ramble about nothing. What we do here is, I am new to fountain pen inks and fountain pens as far as like actually getting to use them. And so we are learning together if you were new. And I am going to be testing out some different colors that I have purchased. And also, if you have any recommendations or suggestions or things that you would like to see me try, let me know for sure. And if I'm able to, I will get them and we will review them together. So that is the purpose here. I also test the inks out on 3 different papers. I do a swatch, and then I do HP 32 paper, regular coffee paper, and Tomo River paper. And the reason is because the inks will look different on the depending on what paper you use. So maybe the reason those inks that I purchased that I was disappointed with, it's because I was using the wrong paper. And that was something that took me forever before I learned. I couldn't understand why I buy all these beautiful inks and they just didn't look anything like the pictures. And for most of them, it was the just the paper that I was using. So if you are new and are having trouble with your inks looking nice or whatever, that might be the problem. It might just be the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and open this, and I leave my inks in the boxes to prevent them from getting faded from sunlight and things. You may not have that issue. Maybe you have a dark spot where you can store the bottles. I do not, sadly. So all right, so this is how it looks in the bottle. It looks almost like an orangey red. Very pretty color. So we're going to see how this looks on the paper. First we will do the swatch. I'm finally starting to remember to actually use the swatches. So I used to do these at the end, but they didn't dry, so I'm starting to do them at the beginning, and then we review them at the end. It's much better. This ink is very clear. There we go. A very clear ink. You can see all the way through it. It's not like some of the other some of the other inks where they're thicker, they have a lot of things in them, a lot of special effects going on. So I wonder what this is going to look like. I'm curious. All right. Oh, wow. So this is way more pigmented than I thought based on how the ink looked. That's kind of cool. That's a really pretty orange. And then I'll put a little bit extra on one side just to see if anything changes when the ink pools. And I'll do it kind of like this. Tiny bit more here. Okay, so that's got some pooling off to the side there. Clean this off. this is a very pretty, not only a pretty color, but the way the ink just felt like laying it down, it felt nice. So that's a really, really nice ink. Very like unassuming and just happy surprise. Okay, this is number 473 by Sailor. Also, if anybody knows what the purpose of the numbering system is, like why these are just, some of these inks just have numbers and not names, I'm kind of curious if you know why. I guess I could Google it, but it might be more fun for you to tell me if you happen to know. And I'm going to do real quick is just tilt this. So this isn't even really a swatch. This is like just printed on the label. And you could tell this is like a very muted peachy kind of a color, like a muted peachy orange compared to how vibrant this is. I'm wondering if this is going to resemble this when it dries, or if we just ended up with a much more vibrant and beautiful color. So we shall see. Let me move this out of the way and we'll let it dry off to the side while we do the other swatches. Okay. So first I always start with the copy paper. And this is just regular old cheap copy paper that you can get at any store that sells copy paper. Nothing special about this at all. Some inks perform wonderfully on this regular old paper, so it's always best to check. And we start with the clean pen to make sure the tests that we do are fair. Alright, so we'll do some squiggles up here. And some other splotches down here. And so far this is still a very pretty color on this paper. I do see some feathering though, so if that bothers you, you might want to try a different paper, but so far the color itself is very nice. And if you like these ink review videos and you want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can continue seeing these. This is number 473 by Sailor. Okay, we're going to do some slow lines just in case there's some shading or something that might come through. And if there's another color that you would recommend, like I always say, leave a comment down below of what you'd like to see me review next. And if I have it, I will review it. Alright. That's pretty good. So yeah, definitely some feathering. And it's going to take a little bit of time to draw. I mean, it doesn't take that long, but because I'm using a dip pen, it lays the ink down a little bit heavier, I think, than some fountain pens do. Like, this is not a super fine point or anything. So I always let them finish drying. This is HP 32 paper. And this, if you aren't familiar with HP 32, this is a very nice, higher quality printer paper. It has a smooth, very smooth finish, so that the ink, I think what happens is that the ink kind of sits on top and it takes a minute longer, like a few seconds longer to dry. And that extra time lets the different properties of the ink show through. At least that's my understanding. So this is a very inexpensive way to maybe get some nicer effects out of your ink without buying the Tomo River paper. So if you make journals or something, this might be a good option. All right, 473 by Sailor. I'll do some slow lines here. I tend to write fast, which gives me very poor handwriting. And I should start practicing my handwriting soon, see if we can solve that problem. All right. Give that a minute to dry. This is showing, this actually does show some shading here. Okay, we'll let that sit. And we'll try the Tomo River paper. Tomo River paper is much, much thinner than the copy papers, especially thinner than the HP 32 paper. It almost feels like tracing paper almost, but it's not. And this, clean this off. Anyway, I always think the ink's going to bleed through and it doesn't usually, so this is a great paper to use for writing. And some inks do look better with it, so if you really care about how the ink looks, like the special effects and everything, if that's the reason why you're buying those inks, if they do look better on the Tomo River paper, it might be worth using it for some people. But that's why I tested on the HB32, because not everybody can get Tomo River paper. And it gives you just another option, another way to see some pretty properties of the ink without, you know, wasting money on, well, not wasting, but spending a lot of money on paper. I guess it's not really a waste if you enjoy it. And I do like the Tomo River paper for certain inks, because it really does capture all the fun qualities of those inks. So we'll do some slow lines. Oh, I see what I forgot. We need to write the name of the paper so we can keep them separated. So this is Tomo River. And over here, this is HP32 and copy paper. That way we can easily tell them apart. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for a minute while I clean off the pen and put the ink away. That'll give this some time to dry up a little bit. And these boxes are kind of cute because they have a little window in the front. Let me see if I can get it closed. And then I will show you what I'm talking about. It has a little booklet in there that's interfering with my processes here. There we go. Okay. Anyways, as I was saying, so this box has a little window in the front that shows the ink through it, which is kind of cute. So if you wanted, you could turn this around and see the actual color of the ink, but I do it this way to help protect it from the light. Okay, so what I was saying before is I wonder if as this dries, it's going to look more like the color on the front. And it does seem to tone down slightly when it dries on the copy paper anyway, but as you can see, it is far from as muted as the label shows, and that's completely fine. But if you happen to see these inks in the store, let's say, you can't tell based on that color on the label what the color of the ink is going to really look like. So this is obviously more vibrant than it looks on the bottle. Another interesting thing is the color looks very flat on this copy paper, but on the HP32 paper, the ink just seems to have more dimension, and I don't know why that is. I've seen another ink do this before too, and this is really interesting. Let me get this Tomo River paper up here. And yeah, there's definitely some shading or something going on here. You can see it here in the writing where it says Sailor, and a little bit on these slow lines. So I think I would call this like maybe like a lower shading ink, but it's beautiful. I really like this actually. This is another surprising one where looking at it in the bottle and looking at the swatches online didn't really look like anything, but in real life, I do not know if the camera is picking this up at all, but in real life, this ink is beautiful, especially on the nicer paper. So it goes from this kind of like flat, one-dimensional, almost I don't know what that is, like almost an orange color, to this with a lot more dimension. It kind of jumps off the page almost. In a good way, like almost like it's outlined or something, but the shading is so slight. And then on here, the shading is slightly better, and it does have that same property of it kind of jumping out at you more than here. But it also has the color of the, I guess we'll call it orange. The orange color goes more of, like from light to dark, kind of, which is obvious because of the shading, but it goes, how do I describe this? It's more even like an ombre effect almost. Very, very pretty. And I don't know if the camera is picking that up, but it's there in the swatches. Now, as far as like the writing and the scribbles go, it's a lot less noticeable, although in the shade, you can see some of the shading in the writing, especially when you compare the three. Like with the copy paper, there's almost nothing. HB32, there's a little bit. Like down here, the bottom of the loops is like a slightly paler color or a slightly different color. And here, same thing, but it's more even, and like more, the change from one color to another is more smooth. And it's sort of changing into another variation of its own color. So it's like from one orange to another. It's not going from like, blue to red or something. It's just Anyways, very pretty and very subtle. And we will look at these under the light as well, just in case the light helps the camera pick up any properties that you might miss. So, yeah. Yeah, this one definitely benefits from the nicer paper, but because it doesn't have dramatic like shading or sheens or anything, you don't really need to. You could just use this with copy paper and you could still get a very pretty orange color. It's just not as, it doesn't have the dimension that it has with the nicer papers. And then we'll look at the swatch, which is mostly dry. Very pretty, vibrant orange. In fact, let me pause this and we will go, I'll put this in front of a fan and we'll come back and look at it again. Just a moment. And just like that, it's dry. All right, so here's how this looks. And I want to point out that there is definitely some shading going on. So it wasn't just my imagination. Right here, you can see like this darker color, like a little halo effect or something. So that's either some shading or sheen or what, I don't know what, but it's definitely showing up in the writing. And down here where you write, where I wrote the sailor, you can see there's something there. There's something that makes this color just kind of pop off the page. I don't know how to describe it, and it's not because it's bright orange. I mean, there's something about the ink itself. This is completely surprising, considering the packaging and everything else, the way it looked online when I looked at the swatches. This does not look anything like I was expecting. This is 100 times better. So this is why I do these swatches and reviews, is because I don't know for sure what something's going to look like. It's hard to say, oh, you know, you read the reviews, oh, what a beautiful orange or whatever, but it's like, yeah, but why? And this kind of goes to show why. So let me grab the light real fast. We'll look at this under the light. Yeah, see, there is like a very, very tiny bit of sheen, just enough to make this ink kind of jump off the page a little. So that's not focusing. Oh well. I wish I could explain how pretty this is in real life. But this is definitely a beautiful, beautiful color. Doesn't look anything like I expected, but in a really good way. So yes, definitely give this ink a try if you are looking for an orangey shade of ink. And again, if you like these videos, click like and subscribe so that you can see more of them, and leave comments to tell me what you want to see in the future, and I will post another video soon, hopefully. And I will see you all then. You have a great day.